Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy...
Hollywood's golden age was a time filled with drama both on and off the screen. But sometimes it went too far. From alcoholic outbursts to alleged pedophilia, here are 15 golden age actors who were not nice guys.
Stevens told you. No, he's never mentioned you.
Miss Allen, here's the blue negligee you want.
Stay out of here. But I've known about you for some time. That'll be news to Stevens.
Number 15, Joan Crawford. Joan Crawford's off-screen reputation is no doubt one of the most controversial in Hollywood history. While she was undeniably talented and dedicated to her craft, stories about her private life have painted her as a complex and often harsh individual. For one, Crawford was fiercely ambitious and had an intense work ethic, but this often led to her clashing with co-stars, directors, and studio executives. Because she demanded excellence from everyone around her, her perfectionism came across as domineering or harsh. For instance, she was known to insist on countless takes to get a scene just right, and this frustrated directors and actors alike. There were also feuds with co-stars. Her feud with Bette Davis is one of the most famous in Hollywood history. Their animosity was palpable both on and off the set of the 1962 film Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. You see, Davis accused Crawford of being manipulative and vindictive, while Crawford allegedly sabotaged Davis's career chances by lobbying against her. Crawford was also known for being highly strategic in managing her career and relationships. She cultivated a glamorous image but was reportedly ruthless behind the scenes, using her influence to control others or eliminate rivals. Some colleagues described her as someone who would charm and then destroy anyone who posed a threat. Joan Crawford's daughter, Christina Crawford, eventually accused her of being abusive and cruel in the memoir Mommy Dearest. The book detailed episodes of physical and emotional abuse, portraying Crawford as a volatile and controlling parent obsessed with maintaining appearances. The infamous wire hanger scene from the 1981 film adaptation also cemented this image in popular culture. In the scene, Joan Crawford discovers that her adopted daughter Christina has been using wire hangers for her clothes instead of padded ones. Crawford views this as unacceptable and flies into a violent rage, berating Christina for her disobedience. She also beat her with the hanger. This scene became a cultural touchstone for depictions of parental abuse and psychological instability. Sadly, that moment was emblematic of the abusive relationship Christina alleges in her memoir. While some dispute the accuracy of Christina's account, others ran with the narrative of Crawford being an abusive mother. While many criticized her, others admired her resilience and generosity. Crawford was known to help struggling actors and maintain strong friendships with people who appreciated her loyalty and dedication. Her defenders argue that her toughness was a survival mechanism in a male-dominated industry.
I could die right now and nobody'd be confused. How about you, Max?
How about me what?
Suppose you drop dead. What about your inventory?
I ain't.
Number 14, Bette Davis. Renowned for her intense performances, distinctive voice, and willingness to play complex, unglamorous characters, Bette Davis was one of the most celebrated actresses of Hollywood's golden age. Over a career spanning 6 decades, Davis won 2 Academy Awards and received 10 nominations, solidifying her legacy as one of the greatest film actresses of all time. However, she was also infamous for her sharp tongue, assertive personality, and numerous feuds, which contributed to her reputation as mean. Davis was unafraid to stand up to studio executives. This included Warner Brothers, where she spent much of her career. She famously sued the studio in the 1930s, seeking greater creative freedom and better roles. Although she lost, the lawsuit solidified her image as a strong-willed woman who wouldn't be controlled. This assertiveness, though admirable, most times came across as arrogant or defiant. Davis's feud with Crawford is also one of the most infamous in Hollywood. Their animosity reached its peak during the filming of Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, where Davis allegedly kicked Crawford during a scene and mocked her behind the scenes. Davis reportedly disliked Crawford for her perceived lack of acting talent and her manipulative charm. It wasn't just Crawford. Davis often clashed with other co-stars as well, earning a reputation for being difficult to work with. Davis was known for her sharp wit and brutal honesty. She didn't hesitate to criticize directors, co-stars, or anyone she felt was unprofessional or incompetent. While this made her a force to be reckoned with, it also alienated many in Hollywood. Davis took her craft very seriously and had little patience for those who didn't. She was a perfectionist who demanded the best from herself and her collaborators. This drive often created tension on set, as some viewed her demands as overbearing. There was also something to be said about her unconventional career choices. Davis frequently chose roles that were unflattering or unsympathetic, challenging the traditional image of a glamorous leading lady. Her willingness to play difficult or morally ambiguous characters set her apart, but also made her less relatable to some of her peers. Davis's refusal to conform to traditional gender roles in Hollywood, both on and off screen, likely contributed to her reputation. In an era when women were expected to be demure, Davis was unapologetically ambitious and vocal. Sadly, these traits were often labeled as mean or difficult in women. Ultimately, Bette Davis's complex personality and no-nonsense attitude made her both feared and respected. Her legacy as an unparalleled actress endures, as does her reputation for being a woman who refused to be underestimated or controlled. Number 13. Charlie Chaplin. Charlie Chaplin might have been widely adored for his comedic talent, but did you know that there was actually more to his brand? Underneath all the praises and accolades, the British actor and director was rumored to have exhibited selfish and tyrannical behavior, particularly towards his children and teenage spouses. Yes, you heard that right. Charlie Chaplin married not one, not two, but 3 teenage women back in the day. Chaplin's personal life was marred by allegations of mistreatment and exploitation of women. Throughout his life, Chaplin is estimated to have been involved with around 2,000 women. Out of that, he got married to 4 of his conquests. His first bride was a young starlet named Mildred Harris, and she was only 16 years old. It is even questionable how she made her way to one of his infamous parties, but that is a whole other story. The two met, and after some dalliances, she informed him she was pregnant with his child. No doubt terrified at the weight of domestic responsibility and, of course, the sheer nastiness of the scandal, Chaplin wedded her in October 1918. However, Mildred wasn't pregnant. It is uncertain if she tricked him on purpose or not, but as the story goes, Chaplin never forgave her. He never wanted to be with her and would become moody whenever she had to be near him. By 1920, the two finalized their bitter divorce. That same year, Chaplin met someone even younger. Lolita McMurray was 12 years old when they met and would become his next wife. Known by the professional name of Lita Gray, she had a minor role in his 1924 film The Gold Rush. Thankfully, he held off on pursuing her until she was, let's just say, a more appropriate age of 16. Similarly, she found herself pregnant before marriage. In fear of legal repercussions, he clandestinely married her in November 1924. Despite having 2 children together, their marriage ended in 1927. Chaplin's subsequent marriage was his most suitable and least tumultuous. Beginning in 1932, he courted the 22-year-old actress Paulette Goddard. He even maintained a respectable working relationship with her until 1942. For some reason, still open to speculation, Chaplin wedded another significantly younger woman. Una was an 18-year-old daughter of Irish playwright Eugene O'Neill. As the story goes, Eugene was furious. In fact, he swiftly disinherited her. But as time would tell, the 4th time was a charm. This marriage endured until Chaplin's death. They had 8 children together and were often hailed as an example of genuine happiness despite the public scrutiny.
Now that's how I'm going to clear the table.
Number 12. Marlon Brando. Born in 1924, Marlon Brando was, without a doubt, one of the most influential and celebrated actors of the 20th century. Through his groundbreaking performances in films like A Streetcar Named Desire, On the Waterfront, and The Godfather later in 1972, Brando revolutionized acting. His use of method acting, a technique he studied under Stella Adler, popularized the acting style and inspired a wave of actors that followed him. His naturalistic and deeply emotional style earned him 2 Academy Awards and lasting acclaim. However, Brando was also infamous for his temperamental behavior, clashes with colleagues, and disdain for Hollywood conventions. Brando was notoriously difficult to work with, often showing up late or refusing to adhere to schedules. His lack of punctuality and focus frustrated directors and co-stars. On the set of Apocalypse Now, he reportedly arrived unprepared, overweight, and unwilling to learn his lines, forcing director Francis Ford Coppola to rewrite much of the script and shoot Brando in shadows to hide his appearance. Brando often challenged the directors, believing that they were not as invested in the artistic process as he was. He publicly criticized directors he disliked, calling them incompetent or unimaginative. He was known to rewrite dialogue, improvise, and resist direction at every point. While this sometimes resulted in brilliant performances, it definitely alienated him from collaborators. Notably, Brando's treatment of co-stars had a tendency to be unkind. On the set of A Streetcar Named Desire, for example, he reportedly mocked and belittled Vivian Lee, who was already struggling with mental health issues. Even worse, he developed the habit of making bizarre and unreasonable demands. One notable instance would be the filming of The Island of Dr. Moreau in 1996. He insisted on wearing white face paint and a bucket on his head, baffling the crew and detracting from the film's production. He also demanded excessive salaries for films, even as his career began to falter, which further earned him a reputation for greed. This shouldn't come as a surprise, but Brando openly expressed contempt for Hollywood. He called it shallow and commercialized, never minding that his principled stance and outspoken criticisms would alienate him from industry insiders. One famous instance was declining his 1973 Academy Award for The Godfather as a protest against Hollywood's treatment of Native Americans. He sent activist Sacheen Littlefeather to reject the award on his behalf. Yes, his activism was commendable, but his approach was tagged as grandstanding by many at the time. Brando's personal life was marked by tumultuous relationships, affairs, and neglect of his children. Many who knew him described him as self-absorbed and manipulative. While he was known for his difficult behavior, Brando was also deeply sensitive and troubled. He struggled with personal demons, including family tragedies and issues with mental health, which may have contributed to his erratic behavior. Number 11. Judy Garland. Legendary American actress and singer Judy Garland is fondly remembered for her exceptional talent and iconic roles, especially as Dorothy in the 1939 classic The Wizard of Oz. But somewhere in all of the immense popularity and adoration from fans, Garland's off-screen reputation was complicated. From the erratic behavior to the personal struggles and the challenges of working with her, many people actually categorized her as not a nice person. Garland's lifelong battle with substance abuse, which began during her time at MGM, severely impacted her personal and professional life. In the early stages of her career, studio executives gave her stimulants to keep her energized and sedatives to help her sleep. This led to a cycle of dependence. Her addictions made her unpredictable, leading to missed rehearsals, canceled performances, and conflicts on set, which frustrated colleagues and studio executives. Garland's fame and status sometimes led to accusations of diva-like behavior. For instance, she reportedly demanded special treatment or clashed with directors over creative decisions. While some viewed this as her fighting for artistic integrity, others interpreted it as difficult or entitled behavior. Garland was known for being late or absent from film sets, sometimes unable to perform due to her emotional or physical state. This behavior led to tensions with directors and co-stars. During the filming of Summer Stock in 1950, her delays and absences disrupted production, leading to frustrations among the cast and crew. Garland's mental health struggles, including severe depression and anxiety, often caused mood swings and unpredictable behavior. While many who worked with her admired her talent, they also found her difficult to handle in high-pressure situations. Perhaps her insecurities about her appearance and talent exacerbated by the studio's criticism and control, had made her defensive or combative. Whatever the case may be, it resulted in strained personal relationships. Garland's personal life was marked by tumultuous marriages, financial problems, and conflicts with those closest to her. Her relationships with family, friends, and colleagues were often strained by her emotional instability and financial dependence. People who lent her money or supported her during difficult times sometimes felt betrayed or hurt by her inability to reciprocate. It's important to recognize that much of Garland's behavior stemmed from the abuse and exploitation she endured in Hollywood. MGM controlled every aspect of her life, from her diet to her public image, subjecting her to intense pressure and scrutiny.
How does one describe drama? Drama is life, with the dull bits cut out.
Number 10. Alfred Hitchcock. Though not an actor, Sir Alfred Joseph Hitchcock was just as famous as one. The revered English film director is in fact still widely acclaimed as one of cinema's most impactful figures. Over his illustrious 6-decade career, he helmed more than 50 feature films. Many of them remain enduring classics. Renowned as the master of suspense, Hitchcock's fame rivaled even that of his actors. Interesting, right? You see, this fame was bolstered largely because he granted numerous interviews and made very iconic cameo appearances in most of his works. Throughout his career, Hitchcock gained a reputation for grappling with Hollywood censors and frequently challenging the constraints imposed by the Hays Code that governed the contents of films. He was constantly devising new strategies to circumvent these regulations. You can already see how this showcased his inventive approach to filmmaking. However, Hitchcock's portrayal of women in his films has drawn scrutiny. Let us consider iconic scenes like Tippi Hedren's harrowing encounters with gulls and ravens in The Birds, and Janet Leigh's chilling shower scene in Psycho. With scenes like this, questions were constantly raised about the director's attitudes and motivations toward his female characters. Speculation abounds that Hitchcock's films served as conduits for his personal desires and fixations, particularly concerning women. Tippi Hedren's revelations in her 2016 memoir have since fueled this perception. She alleged sexual assault and other misconduct during the production of films like The Birds and Marnie. By detailing instances of harassment and retribution from Hitchcock following her rebuffs, she shed light on the darker aspects of their professional relationship. Despite her commendable performance under Hitchcock's meticulous guidance, Hedren reportedly endured genuine trauma during the filming of The Birds, particularly in the infamous attic scene. Assured that only mechanical birds would be used, she found herself confronting live birds when it was time for filming. This not only heightened her distress, but also heightened the complexities of her collaboration with Hitchcock. She described the grueling experience of having birds hurled at her head as brutal, ugly, and relentless. Crew members, including Hitchcock, expressed remorse over the ordeal. Hedren was particularly noted in Hitchcock's difficulty in facing the situation, as he secluded himself in his office until the shooting was imminent due to his discomfort. However, she later understood that Hitchcock's actions were driven by a desire to exert further control over her. She recounts instances where he shared inappropriate stories or jokes, attempted to kiss her forcefully in a limousine or office. He also invaded her personal space throughout the production. All these actions she found intolerable. Critics of Hedren's account argue Hitchcock revered women and prided himself on gentlemanly conduct. However, could she really have made it all up?
Thatcher, do you know anything we could use against them?
Still the college boy, aren't you?
Oh, no, Mr. Thatcher. I was expelled from college. A lot of colleges, you remember. I remember.
Number 9. Orson Wells. Orson Wells was a groundbreaking filmmaker, actor, writer, and producer, best known for his innovative work in radio, theater, and cinema. Notably, he gained international fame with his 1938 radio broadcast of The War of the Worlds, which caused widespread panic, as well as his 1941 cinematic masterpiece, Citizen Kane. Despite this being regarded as one of the greatest films of all time, and despite his immense talent and influence, Wells did not escape being categorized as an awful person. As you will see, this reputation was born out of his arrogance, ego, and conflicts with colleagues. However, this reputation could very well be nuanced and reflective of his complex personality, and unrelenting pursuit of artistic perfection. To begin with, Wells was a prodigy, achieving fame at a young age. His early success often made him appear arrogant and self-assured, which alienated some collaborators. Truly, he had a nasty habit of belittling the hard work of others. One time, he famously referred to Hollywood as an emotional Detroit, suggesting that it prioritized mass production over artistry. Wells was known for being controlling and demanding on set. He had a clear vision for his projects and expected everyone to align with his ideas, often leading to friction with producers, actors, and crew members. His perfectionism caused delays and budget overruns on several productions, including The Magnificent Ambersons in 1942. The entire project was taken out of his hands and recut by the studio, leading to lifelong bitterness between both parties. Wells had numerous public feuds with industry figures. For example, he clashed with William Randolph Hearst, the powerful newspaper magnate on whom Citizen Kane was loosely based. Rumors suggest that Hearst made efforts to suppress the film. He also criticized fellow filmmakers, once calling Alfred Hitchcock's Rear Window a lot of old-fashioned, corny rear projection shots. In time, Wells developed a reputation for being unreliable, often disappearing from sets or leaving projects unfinished. His inability to manage budgets and frequent clashes with studios made him a risky collaborator. Many of his later projects were self-funded or financed through his acting work, reflecting his distrust of studio systems, but also his inability to maintain professional relationships. Wells was known for being manipulative to get what he wanted. For example, during the filming of Citizen Kane, he encouraged the crew to work long hours and pushed his actors to the brink, sometimes without regard for their well-being. Because his charm could often disarm people, he earned a reputation for intellectual superiority, often speaking in a way that made others feel inferior. Overall, Wells was a larger-than-life figure with an outsized personality. He could be charming, funny, and generous, but also abrasive, moody, and self-centered. Some would argue that these imperfections made him both a fascinating and polarizing figure.
I'm sure you are.
Why,
You don't like that, do you, Mr. Cabinet Member? Somebody else put over a deal.
You mean to tell me that you've been putting it over on me with some other man?
Yes, and what are you gonna do?
Number 8. Wallace Bry. Best known for his roles in films like The Champ and Grand Hotel, Wallace Bry was a highly successful actor during Hollywood's golden age. Despite his charm and popularity with audiences, there were always allegations of violent behavior, difficult on-set conduct, and strained relationships with colleagues and family. Most alarming of all was his alleged involvement in the death of Ted Healy. At some point, Bry was linked to the 1937 death of Ted Healy, the creator of the Three Stooges. According to reports, Healy got into a drunken altercation at a nightclub with Bry and 2 others, leading to his death shortly after. While the exact details remain murky, rumors have persisted that Bry was involved in the incident. MGM reportedly sent Bry to Europe for several months to avoid further scrutiny. Even before that scandal, Bry was already notorious for being difficult to work with. He was known for being egotistical, demanding, and unkind to co-stars, especially those he perceived as weaker or less experienced. A good example would be the set of The Champ. Jackie Cooper, who co-starred with Bry in The Champ, accused him of being cruel and selfish. Cooper described Bry as begrudging any attention the child actor received and even sabotaging his performances. Bry was known for putting his career ahead of others. He reportedly undermined co-stars and colleagues to secure better roles or maintain his leading status. His competitive nature and lack of camaraderie on the set alienated many in the industry. Unfortunately, like many stars of the Golden Age, Bry benefited from the powerful influence of MGM. The studio's influence protected his public image by covering up scandals and controlling the media narrative. Moving on, Bry was known for being extremely frugal, even miserly. Stories of his reluctance to tip waitstaff or spend money on others contributed to his negative reputation. Some colleagues found his stinginess emblematic of a larger lack of generosity in his personal and professional relationships. Bry's personal life was marred by allegations of abuse. His first wife, actress Gloria Swanson, accused him of physical and emotional mistreatment during their brief marriage. Swanson specifically claimed that Bry was violent and controlling, which led to their divorce after just a few years of marriage.
What is it? Be quick.
Tell me, Scarlett, do you never shrink from marrying men you don't love?
How did you ever get out of jail? Why didn't they hang you?
Number 7. Vivian Lee. Vivian Lee was an acclaimed British actress best known for her roles as Scarlett O'Hara in Gone with the Wind and as Blanche Dubois in A Streetcar Named Desire. Both roles notably earned her Academy Awards. While extraordinary beauty and talent made her a Hollywood legend, her personal struggles often complicated her relationships. The thing is, Lee suffered from a severe bipolar disorder that was poorly understood and stigmatized at the time. This condition caused dramatic mood swings that would make her erratic, temperamental, or even cruel to those around her. Her illness often led to clashes with directors, co-stars, and even her husband, Laurence Olivier, with whom she shared a famously tumultuous marriage. At times, she could be charming, witty, and generous, but in darker moments, she was prone to outbursts and could be emotionally or verbally cutting. On set, Lee was known to be exacting and occasionally difficult to work with, particularly when she felt the quality of a production didn't meet her high standards. Some viewed her as arrogant or overly demanding, though others saw this as a reflection of her dedication to her craft. Stories of her lashing out at colleagues circulated, reinforcing her reputation as challenging. However, many who worked with her also noted her vulnerability and the toll her mental health struggles took on her. Additionally, her privileged upbringing and aristocratic demeanor sometimes led people to perceive her as aloof or condescending. In truth, Lee was a deeply complex person battling inner demons while navigating the intense pressures of fame and the expectations placed on women in Hollywood and the theater world. She has since been viewed in a more compassionate light in recent years. Her not nice reputation often stemmed more from misunderstandings of her mental health and high expectations than from genuine malice. Today, her legacy is viewed with greater compassion, recognizing her as a groundbreaking actress whose struggles humanized her as much as her artistry elevated her.
Come to think of it, he's no gentleman at all. He's the son of a yellow-bellied sow.
Number 6. Kirk Douglas. Kirk Douglas was no doubt a legendary figure in Hollywood, best known for his rugged charisma, commanding presence, and iconic roles in films like Spartacus and Paths of Glory. As a self-made star who rose from humble beginnings, Douglas became synonymous with determination and grit, both on-screen and off. Besides acting, he was also a producer and author, admired for his contributions to breaking the Hollywood blacklist. Yet, behind the scenes, his intense ambition and larger-than-life personality earned him a reputation as a difficult and sometimes ruthless figure, leading many to see him as not a nice person. You would find that his journey from celebrated hero to controversial figure offers a fascinating glimpse into the complexities of power, fame, and human imperfection. You see, Douglas had a fiery personality and a relentless drive for success. Unfortunately, this often translated into a combative attitude on set. He was known to clash with directors, co-stars, and producers if he felt they weren't meeting his high standards or if he thought his ideas were better. His intensity no doubt alienated people, with many seeing him as intimidating or overly controlling. Some viewed this as arrogance, though others believed it was a reflection of his passion and ambition. There were also allegations of abusive behavior, particularly in his personal life. His autobiography and interviews revealed moments where his actions could be interpreted as aggressive or insensitive. Darker rumors, including allegations of sexual misconduct, have surfaced over the years, with some suggesting he wielded his power inappropriately. These claims, though never substantiated in court, have contributed to a more critical view of his off-screen persona. Douglas's relationships with colleagues and family were complex. While many respected his talent and professionalism, others felt he was manipulative or harsh and willing to step on others to secure his position in Hollywood. Yet he was also known for his philanthropy and efforts to improve the industry, such as standing up to the Hollywood blacklist by giving screenwriter Dalton Trumbo credit for Spartacus. His reputation as difficult and arrogant largely reflects the duality of his personality, a fiercely ambitious man who sometimes let his intensity overshadow his relationships. Today, Kirk Douglas is remembered as a towering figure in Hollywood history, with a legacy shaped by both his extraordinary achievements and the controversies surrounding his life.
I don't like anyone chewing gum on the stage, Oliver. Spit it out, please. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, sir. Good morning, sir.
Number 5. John Barrymore. Known as the Great Profile for his striking good looks, John Barrymore was a member of the renowned Barrymore acting dynasty and a true icon of his time. No doubt one of the most legendary actors of the early 20th century, he is still celebrated for his captivating performances in films like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde and 20th Century. He is still renowned for his groundbreaking work on stage in Shakespearean roles like Hamlet. Yet behind his charm and talent, he earned a reputation for being difficult, self-centered, and, at times, not a particularly kind person. Much of Barrymore's troubled reputation stemmed from his lifelong battle with alcoholism, which often turned his charisma into volatility. His drinking caused him to miss rehearsals, show up late to sets, or perform erratically. All were actions that must have frustrated his colleagues and derailed productions. While his wit and intellect were admired, his sharp tongue could be devastating. Barrymore was notorious for mocking and belittling others, sometimes in front of crowds, leaving those on the receiving end humiliated. Even those who loved him admitted that his humor often crossed the line into cruelty. In his personal life, Barrymore was just as challenging. He married 4 times, and many of those relationships were marked by infidelity, emotional neglect, and the fallout from his self-destructive habits. His narcissism and tendency to prioritize his own desires often left friends and family feeling abandoned or hurt. Yet, at the same time, those close to him recognized his vulnerabilities and the deep securities he tried to mask with bravado and excess. As his health and career declined due to his alcoholism, Barrymore became a tragic figure, and his darker qualities seemed to overshadow the brilliance of his earlier years. While many categorized him as a bad and difficult person, his story is also one of immense talent, personal demons, and the human flaws that shaped his complex legacy. Above all, we believe he remains a fascinating figure, a reminder of both the heights of artistic achievement and the struggles that can accompany fame and genius. If you made it this far, hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any updates from us.
Nobody answered the doorbell. That's a lie. I didn't ring the doorbell. I couldn't find it. I just walked in. I'm sorry.
Number 4. Spencer Tracy. Celebrated for his naturalistic performances in films like Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, Boys Town, and Captain's Courageous, this 2-time Academy Award winner was one of Hollywood's most revered actors. Spencer Tracy was known for his immense talent and ability to bring authenticity and depth to every role he played. Yet, despite his professional success and charm on screen, Tracy was often seen as a difficult and, at times, not nice person, especially in his personal life. Tracy's struggles with alcoholism were a defining factor in his reputation. His drinking often led to erratic and sometimes abusive behavior, straining relationships with colleagues and loved ones. On set, his moodiness could make him challenging to work with, and while many directors admired his talent, they also dreaded his unpredictability. Tracy's temper and biting sarcasm added to his reputation as someone who wasn't always easy to approach. In his personal life, Tracy was deeply conflicted. As a devout Catholic, he carried a lifelong guilt over his inability to reconcile his religious beliefs with his behavior, including his extramarital relationship with Katharine Hepburn. While his romance with Hepburn is remembered as one of Hollywood's greatest love stories, it was complicated by Tracy's refusal to divorce his wife, Louise, despite their estrangement. This decision and emotional distance caused pain for both women and painted him as someone who could be selfish or emotionally unavailable. Tracy also struggled with his own insecurities, particularly about his health and career. His need for control sometimes manifested as arrogance or dismissiveness towards those he felt didn't measure up to his high standards. Yet many who knew him also spoke of his kindness and generosity, often hidden beneath his gruff exterior. At his core, he was a deeply flawed but profoundly talented man, whose struggles with himself often overshadowed his many virtues.
With bars in front of the windows? No, thank you, Lorena.
This is no place for a beautiful...
Number 3. Barbara Payton. Barbara Payton's stunning beauty and raw talent briefly made her a rising star in the late 1940s and early 1950s. Known for films like Kiss Tomorrow Goodbye and Bride of the Gorilla, she had an undeniable screen presence. Payton's reputation was largely shaped by her tumultuous relationships and controversial behavior. Her love life became tabloid fodder, especially her highly publicized and chaotic romances with actor Franchot Tone and Tom Neal. The rivalry between the two men famously escalated into a violent brawl, with Neal brutally beating Tone. Payton's decision to marry Tone shortly after the incident, only to leave him for Neal, fueled perceptions of her as manipulative and self-serving. Critics painted her as someone who thrived on drama and used her beauty to exploit others, though some argued she was a victim of her own impulsiveness and poor judgment. Her struggles with substance abuse further tarnished her image. Payton's drinking and erratic behavior often made her difficult to work with, and like we mentioned, her career quickly declined. She became known for her volatile temper, reckless choices, and a seeming disregard for the consequences of her actions. As her personal life spiraled out of control, so did her public image. Despite her reputation, Payton's story is ultimately a tragic one. Many who knew her spoke of a woman deeply damaged by the pressures of fame and the unforgiving nature of Hollywood. Her descent into poverty, addiction, and eventual early death at 39 was a stark contrast to her glamorous beginnings. Today, she's often remembered as a cautionary tale of beauty, fame, and self-destruction. Number 2. Paul Kelly. With a career spanning both stage and screen, Paul Kelly is one of the most talented character actors in Hollywood. Best known for his roles in films like The Roaring Twenties and Flying Tigers, he had a commanding presence and a reputation as a reliable performer. However, his off-screen life was marred by scandal, leading many to view him in a less-than-ideal light. Unfortunately, this perception only worsened after a tragic and infamous incident that cast a shadow over his career. Kelly's reputation took a dark turn in the 1920s when he was involved in a violent altercation with actor Ray Raymond. Raymond here was the husband of Kelly's lover, actress Dorothy McKay. The fight resulted in Raymond's death, and Kelly was convicted of manslaughter, serving over 2 years in San Quentin prison. The scandal rocked Hollywood, with many seeing Kelly's actions as not only criminal, but also morally reprehensible given the circumstances of the love triangle. His relationship with McKay, who was also imprisoned for her role in covering up the incident, only added to the public perception of him as a deeply flawed individual. Despite the notoriety, Kelly managed to resurrect his career after serving his sentence, returning to Hollywood and eventually marrying McKay. While he regained professional respect for his acting talent, the stigma of his past actions lingered. Some in the industry viewed him as cold or unrepentant, and his ability to continue working after such a scandal was often attributed to Hollywood's willingness to overlook personal transgressions for professional talent. Kelly's life and career are often seen as a complex mix of redemption and unresolved guilt. While he was a skilled actor, his personal history left a lasting impression, making it difficult for many to see him as anything other than a man marked by scandal. Wouldn't you agree that his story serves as a reminder of how personal choices can shape public perception, even in the face of undeniable professional achievements?
I suppose there's a time when any man, even a man like me, can find something bigger than himself.
Number 1. Errol Flynn. Errol Leslie Flynn will always be one of the most recognizable faces from the golden age of Hollywood. The Australian actor achieved worldwide fame not only for his acting, but also for his looks and lifestyle. And when you have such an attractive lifestyle, it's almost impossible to keep your true womanizing and activities a secret. Actress Marlene Dietrich was one of his lovers, and she reportedly gave him the name Satan's Angel. What could he possibly have done to earn that moniker? You see, Flynn wasn't just hedonistic, he loved to control women, especially minors. The thing is, reports suggest that Flynn's mother constantly belittled and beat him. Many now believe this was a defining event in his life. It is likely that the early experience instilled in him a mistrust of women that drove him to control them throughout his life. Flynn grew up self-indulgent. He quickly learned he could skate based on his charm and athletic ability. He was a tennis champion in his teens, but just kept getting himself thrown out of school. Thankfully, he soon found his passion for acting. He had the talent and charisma needed to make it big in Hollywood, so he did. Getting involved with a lot of women was one of the many perks of the job. While womanizing might not sound so bad, the truth is Flynn had a thing for minors. Errol Flynn's involvement with underage girls is just as disturbing as it sounds. However, it becomes increasingly unsettling as one delves deeper into the narrative. So despite his established Hollywood career and marital status at 48 years old, why else would he be engaged in these disturbing relationships? Flynn was just a complex figure who often got entangled in questionable activities. One notable scandal was his alleged involvement with 15-year-old Beverly Adland. When you really think about the nature of their connection, it raises serious concerns. While this will never be a valid excuse to date a 15-year-old, the rumors suggest that Adland was actually in love with him. She had not been coerced in any way, and she seemed to enjoy all their global adventures together. The relationship was even described as exciting and unconventional. But was there more to it? Rumor has it that when this unlikely pair initially crossed paths, Flynn was experiencing some career setbacks. He was entangled in child support disputes with ex-wives, shunned for his alcoholism, and faced numerous allegations of inappropriate behavior with underage girls. This has since called for speculation that his relationship with Adland was a somewhat disturbing tactic to enhance his fame. This controversial strategy garnered so much attention that it reignited media interest in Flynn. Could this really have been his intention all along? So, yes, it is disturbing that Adland would later admit that her first sexual encounter with Flynn was not consensual. And yes, it is even more disturbing that she somehow still managed to fall in love with him. But nothing is more disturbing than an adult who continuously goes after underage girls. Shocked at any of these names? Do share your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button. You also can't miss the next video on screen.